so many of these jokes and parodies of the coronavirus, I think, are kind of tacky. I mean, considering everything that the world is going through right now, everything that we're struggling with, I don't know if this is necessarily something that we should be having jokes and parodies about, although I do have to admit, I have chuckled at a few of them. The ones that I like are the ones that aren't necessarily to do with the coronavirus crisis itself, but of kind of the consequences of some of our social distancing and our isolation. My favorite is I love following the homeschooling post on Facebook. It started the first day. It was like day one student suspended for not showing up for class. Another student expelled for fighting with the teacher. Day 2 of homeschooling. Teachers should be paid a salary of at least $1 billion a year. No, let me clarify that. $1 billion a week. Day 3 of homeschooling. 2 more students suspended, and the teacher fired for drinking on the job. And so some of those have been just downright hilarious to think about what all this homeschooling is about. But the parodies that I've enjoyed the most are the ones that do with hoarding toilet paper. The unfortunate thing about the jokes and parodies about hoarding toilet paper is, unfortunately, I can't really share them while I'm preaching. They wouldn't necessarily be appropriate, but your imagination, I'm sure, could make this funny as it is. But the sad reality is it's not funny. How come sometimes in a crisis it brings out the worst in people? I mean, the worst in people. What's going on with all this hoarding? Just for selfishness. What's going on, even worse yet, hoarding for personal price gouging. If you want to know what price gouging is going on, just look for hand sanitizer on the internet right now and see. I found one, 6 ounces, which is a nice size container, $79.99 for 6 ounces of hand sanitizer. Now, is that a little price gouging? It's sad that a crisis brings out the worst in people. I could use a bigger dose of how the crisis is bringing out the best in people. This is the staff of our own St. Charles Hospital here in Bend, Oregon. They are putting their lives at risk, helping people during this crisis. I have one who's a friend who has been sharing with me the great burden that she is carrying right now, not just with her worries for those who are sick, but for her own health, and then her fear that she's going to take this disease home and give it to her children, her family, her friends. This great burden she's carrying. I have another friend whose extended family is pressuring her into taking a leave of absence. But she said to me, but if I didn't care for those who are sick, who would? Wouldn't I want somebody there if someone in my family was sick? Wouldn't I want somebody there if my family were sick? There are many out there right now who are inspiring me by the way they are putting themselves in harm's way to help others. And what can we do? What can we do? We need to pray for them. We need to hold all these people that are putting themselves in harm's way to help us by praying for them, praying for them. But the sad reality is, when I've encouraged people to pray for them, I get this this response that I'm just not adequate for the task. I've just never been good at praying, or my prayers aren't necessarily heard or answered. And I'm just like, wait a minute. To pray is not as much about you, but it's about God. To pray is not as much about you, but it's about God. So to pray, don't worry about what you're going to say. Don't worry about how your prayers are going to be answered. If they're going to be answered, they're all going to be answered as God is going to best answer them. So in prayer, it's not so much as trying to reach out and beg God to help us, but to draw within to the Spirit of God that's already present within us. We heard in our second reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 11, if the Spirit of the one who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, the one who raised Christ from the dead will give life to your mortal bodies also, through his Spirit dwelling in you. The Spirit of the living God dwells in us. And so prayer is connecting to the life of the Spirit that's already present with us. And so I was talking to a friend on the phone about this, who is very concerned because his wife works at St. Charles Hospital, and she works in the lab, and she's the one who's running so many tests and reminding us that there are other people getting sick with other illnesses and things too that still need health care. And when I said to him, you need to connect to the Spirit within through prayer, his response to me was, Father, I'm just not feeling it. And I said, okay, so what do you do when you kind of want to snuggle up to your wife and she's just not feeling it? And he's like, well, sometimes I, dim the lights, light a few candles, put on some romantic music, and get us into the mood. Well, hello. If that's what you do to get intimate with your wife, why don't you try something similar to get intimate with God? Because that's what we're trying to do with our prayer, is to get intimate with God, to connect with a God that has no limits. We're talking about a God who we heard today was able to raise Lazarus from the dead. Our God has no limits. So prayer is a way for us to connect with a God without limits. And if you're just not feeling it, then you need to create a space, an environment, a way to feel it, just like you're trying to do with your wife, with the dim the lights and the light the candles and the romantic music. You need to create a time and a place for prayer in your own home. Me, I have my prayer chair. It's a wonderful little corner in my bedroom. It has a cross. It has my Bible, my prayer books. It's my place. It's my place because the reality is we're flesh and blood humans. And things that are real help us to connect with God, who is within us. And so, how can you create a place for prayer in your life right now? Yeah, we're all isolated. Yeah, we're supposed to stay at home. Yeah, we can't go to church. We can't go hang out in the chapels. Well, your home is your own church. Make a place for prayer. Crosses, maybe a candle. A place where you can go when you mean business, where you need help feeling it. A place that when you enter that space, you know why you're there and who you're going to be encountering when you're there. And think about it. This isn't just for individuals. What about families? I mean, this family, that was a closet. If you look, you can hear, see the bar there for hanging. That was a closet in their house. And the reality is, Mommy needed a timeout. You know the mother who got fired for teaching because she was drinking on the job? Mommy was having too much quality time with her kids. And I said, have you thought about spending time in prayer? When can I have time to spend in prayer? They're there all the time, from early in the morning to late at night. It's like, what can you do as a family to create a space that your kids will know that, Mommy needs to go have some prayer time? That when you enter that space, you mean business. And then make it like a home chapel. Can you gather your family or whoever you're with in that space each evening before going to bed? Are there people, family, friends, acquaintances, people in your own city who are struggling, maybe even dying from the coronavirus? Can you as a family remember them and mention them out loud in prayer? Can you say a prayer each evening with your family for all those who are putting themselves in harm's way, for the healthcare workers, those who are working at the grocery stores, and so many other businesses too numerous to name? To pray, to take that time for prayer as a family, and to witness that you need prayer too. Mommy and Daddy need prayer if they're going to help their family the most at this time and help our community and world. But I'm thinking about it, even Grandma and Grandpa sometimes needs prayer, since they're kind of the ones doing the homeschooling right now, the child care. I love it. One grandmother posted on Facebook a math problem for her elementary school child. Algebra, elementary school. They didn't teach algebra in elementary school when Grandma went to elementary school, and she was frantic. Others are putting themselves out there. And what will help us? What will connect us with the God without limits? Prayer. So at this time more than ever, let's set aside a time and a place for prayer. And pray for all those who are in need and struggling. Let us use prayer to help us the most.